So some of you will have seen this last week. How to put a background image instead of a color to your web page. So I've made a new HTML file. Just call it background.html just for this example. What I'm going to do is put some more text in again. So welcome to the best web page ever. Da, 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 da. And I'm gonna, as good practice, so what I'm gonna expect for everybody now is that you put it into p tags. So every single piece of text you put in, you must put it in p tags now, because when you're doing your proper website for your project, you will need to. So it needs to be done. Um, so I'm just putting in some placeholder text for now, and I'm gonna give it a style. So if you remember, P does all of them. In fact, we'll give them all an ID. So if we give them ID equals P1 and ID equals, oops, put it wrong place. ID equals P2. So hashtag P1, and we will give it a color of let's try Burleywood. That sounds interesting. And then for P2, we'll give it a color of, say, dark blue. So if we now check this in our browser, so this is one I did earlier, but we don't want to look at that now, so let's have a look at background instead. So we've got our two things and they've changed colour as we want them to. However, I want a nice background image because I want it to look a bit fancier than just being a colour. So if we have a look on here, so if we type in body, which everybody should remember, this is the default. So body in the style is basically your default settings that everything should go to, should you not name it and give it something else to override it. So on here we can put a background image in. So look, there's background-image. Now you have to type in URL. And for those of you who remember, URL is Uniform Resource Locator. You need to talk about that in P1, so you should remember what URL is. So basically this is looking for a resource, and we need to point out where it is. Now, if you look, I have images, which was in one of my previous videos for a previous week. So if you don't know how to put your images in folders, please check the video on that, because there is one. So please check it. But I'm going to use Banjo 1. So let's do banjo1.png. And it's missing a quote there, so it should be in orange. If it's in orange, that means it's correct. Now, it's in the images folder, so I need to tell it that it's in the images folder. So images / banjo1.png. So if we save this, let's look and see what's happened. And if we look, this is now the background image, and these are now over the top of it. So it has worked correctly. And if you look, it's huge. Now we might think, well, that's a bit too big because you can only see part of his face. It's a very high resolution image, but you can't see everything. So in the body underneath background image, if we put in background and then size, obviously we can set it to automatic and see what it does. So let's set it to auto, but I believe it's already in auto mode, but we'll see. Yeah, it was already in auto mode, so it's automatically put it at that size. So instead, let's change it to contain. Now, if we have a look at what contain does, you'll see that it's managed to contain a lot of it on screen. So it shrunk it down so it can fit in, but it's repeating a lot. So if you can see, it's got lots and lots of different repeats. Now, if you want to stop the repeat, which you can do, you literally have another parameter underneath, which is background dash repeat, and you just tell it to no repeat. So if you tell it to not repeat at all, you'll now find that there is just one background image and it's tiny. But you need to have a play around with this because it depends on what you want on your background. If you want an image like that, you can. It's quite easy to do, but if we have cover instead, and see what this does, so refresh, you'll see that it'll stretch it to the edge of the screen, and then that's it. And that's a pretty decent size. That's not bad. And obviously we might have another image underneath, but that's basically how to put a background image onto your body. Now, if you were doing p tags, technically speaking, this will work. So if we copy this code and put it onto p1, and what I'm going to do is just delete the code in the body for now. So delete that, save, and we'll have a look what that's done. It has actually put it in the P1, but as you can see, it shrunk it because the P1 is only that big. So you can put background images into your paragraph tags if they're big enough. So if you've got a really big paragraph and you think, oh, this would be good with an image, background image, you can give it one right there by just telling it to. So have a play around with it, see what you think, and see if you can come up with any cool sort of background images for your P2 that you should be doing as well for the weeks upcoming.